9 spine-chilling Walmart horror tales revealed. Late-night nightmares you should never experience. Jenny flicked on the store's fluorescent lights, the beams cutting through the thick shadows that hung over the aisles like ghosts. Each click echoed in the emptiness, amplifying her growing dread. Alone at the Walmart, she pushed her cart down the deserted rows, feeling the weight of the night pressing down on her. The haunting stories her grandmother told about the night watchers wrapped around her mind like a suffocating fog. What if they were real? Those tales of lurking shadows guarding their territory, watching from the edges of light, felt like a cruel warning tonight. With every sweeping motion of her cart, the cold air prickled at her skin, sending violent shivers racing up her spine. The checkout lines lay silent and still, the flickering of the overhead lights an ominous reminder of the loneliness. She couldn't shake that unsettling whisper that seemed to float through the aisles, sending her heart racing. It was a reminder of her fears, not just of the shadows, but of being alone, of failing Timmy. Jenny tried to calm herself, focusing on the rows of cereal boxes and cleaning supplies. But something was off. The shelves looked different, like they were shifting, mocking her as she tried to concentrate. She rubbed her eyes, telling herself it was fatigue. Yet, the need to look over her shoulder grew stronger with every tick of that relentless clock. The air felt thick and heavy, wrapping around her with a grip that threatened to choke her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Suddenly, familiar faces drifted through the shadows, neighbors she once exchanged pleasantries with, yet now their glares held a sinister weight. Their eyes glinted with secrets, and Jenny's stomach twisted into knots. This was no longer the same warm community she knew. Tonight, it felt like they were hiding dark truths, their intentions wrapped in the veil of night. The clock ticked louder now, each beat hammering out the dread that pounded in her ears. Stay cool, she whispered to herself, but the thick air constricted her throat. An echo of rustling stirred behind her, and Jenny spun around. Nothing. Just the sprawling emptiness of the pet supply section. Little Timmy's laughter rang in her mind, a desperate comfort amidst the rising chaos. Why was she thinking about him now? An overwhelming urge to flee tore through her, but she was stuck, paralyzed by paranoia. Then, crossing the threshold of light into the pet food aisle, something stirred in the shadows. A figure stepped out, cloaked in darkness. The distorted features flickered under the harsh lights, and panic shot through her veins. She darted toward the exit, heart pounding like a war drum. Was it the night watchers? Or was it someone from her community ready to expose her? As she raced towards the sliding doors, the lights flickered for one last time. All at once, the weight of eyes bore down on her, their whispers echoing the very doubts tearing her apart. Would she escape this snare of darkness, or would Willow Creek's secrets consume her whole? Jenny burst through the sliding doors, her breath hitching in her throat. The cool night air stung her face, but with it came a sense of fleeting freedom. She stumbled into the parking lot, her heart racing as she scanned the dimly lit expanse. The familiar rows of cars now looked foreign, their shapes looming like dark sentinels under the light of the flickering lampposts. She needed to reach her car, but her legs felt heavy, weighed down by the fear that gripped her. What had she just seen? That shadow, could it have been one of her neighbors, or something far worse? A shiver ran through her, and she tightened her grip on her cart, clutching it like a lifeline. Jenny hurried toward her vehicle, each step echoing in the stillness. Then she heard it, a whisper, soft but clear enough to pierce through the unsettling silence. Jenny. The voice seemed to float in the air around her, curling like smoke. She froze, scanning the parking lot for the source. Nobody was there. Get it together, she muttered, forcing her feet to move again. As she reached her car, the familiar sight of the empty back seat felt oddly haunting. It wasn't just her imagination. The shadows stretched longer, darker than she remembered, as if they were creeping closer. She fumbled for her keys, heart drumming louder with every second. The whisper came again, more urgent this time. You shouldn't have come back. Her breath caught in her throat as icy fingers of dread clawed at her insides. Who was it? The night watchers? Or was it simply the remnants of the town's dark secrets infiltrating her mind? She glanced around again, every instinct screaming to get inside her car. Finally! She found the key and unlocked the door with trembling hands. But just as she slid into the driver's seat, the air grew thick, stifling her resolve. The voice morphed into a low murmur, surrounding her. Join us. It was like a cold breeze washing over her skin. The hairs on her neck stood on end. Her grip on the steering wheel tightened, knuckles turning white as she slammed the door shut, locking out the night. Don't engage, she whispered to herself. Just drive away. She turned the key, but the engine coughed and sputtered. Panic surged as she turned it again. Nothing. The car refused to comply, mocking her desperation with silence. Suddenly, the lights in the store flickered again, casting a dull glow across the parking lot. Movement caught her peripheral vision. Faces emerged from the shadows, those same neighbors she had just seen. Their eyes glinted, no longer friendly but smirking with an unsettling delight. They were standing in a tight circle, casting long shadows toward her. What were they doing? Jenny's heart raced. Was this some kind of sick game? She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel, trying to block the sight. Get away! Just leave me alone! She screamed into the empty car. But the whisper intensified, flooding her thoughts with its relentless urge. Join us, you're one of us. As dread twisted in her gut, Jenny felt the cold metal of her car door handle, and her heart leapt. What if she just opened up, faced them? But what if it was worse than she imagined? With every muscle in her body screaming to flee, Jenny's eyes darted. Her mind raced. She had to move, but how? And then, a figure appeared in her rearview mirror, tall, dark, and looming. She froze, the reality crashing around her. Who was this new menace? Would she find a way to escape the clutches of the town's hidden horrors, or was she destined to become another whispered tale in the growing darkness? The figure loomed closer, its shape blurred by the darkness. Jenny's heart pounded as she squinted into the rearview mirror. It was no one she recognized. A chill like ice slashed through her veins. Panic surged, and with it, a thought: if she didn't act now, she'd become trapped. Come on, come on! She urged the engine, desperately twisting the key again. It grunted to life, but the sound was weak, like it was barely holding on. Just then, the figure stepped into the light, revealing a face twisted with ghastly delight. It was Mr. Thompson, one of the elderly men from her building. But something was off. His eyes were sunken, pupils wide, an unnatural gleam in the dim light. He smiled, but it was a smile that sent electric jolts of terror through her. Jenny, you really shouldn't be out here alone, he crooned, his voice low and scratchy, like gravel grinding against metal. The grip of the whispering voices twisted tighter around her mind, urging her to open the door. You're one of us, Jenny, they hissed, wrapping her in an icy embrace. Stay back! She yelled, the words ripped from her throat as she slammed the gear into reverse. The car rolled backward, but the engine sputtered again. Desperation clawed at her spirit. Frantically, she glanced side to side, looking for any sign of escape. The neighbors, no, the onlookers pivoted as one, their heads tracking her movements with eerie synchrony, expressions of glee twisted into grotesque masks. A soft, sickening chuckle rippled through the circle, reverberating against the concrete walls. Join us, Jenny, Mr. Thompson kept saying, inching closer, hands reaching toward the car as if pleading for her company. The light caught the edges of his teeth, sharp and glimmering like shards of glass. She pressed her foot harder on the accelerator, heat pooling in her stomach. But the car wouldn't budge. Instead, it lurched, vibrating as if mocking her with its disobedience. Sweat dripped down her back, a river of dread pooling in her gut. The figures blurred, breaking apart and reshaping in the space around her. She could feel their weight pressing in, shadows slithering toward her through the thin veil of light. Join, they breathed as one, the words curling in her ears like a fast-spreading fever. "Stop it! Get away!" Jenny screamed, her knuckles turning white against the steering wheel. The car, her last barrier, felt more like a prison than a shield. Suddenly, the lights around the parking lot flickered again, bathing the scene in brief, frantic bursts of illumination. For that heartbeat, she could see the wicked smiles expanding, the shadows retreating only to surge back with more intensity. With a final desperate gasp, she heaved her body against the steering wheel, slamming the horn like a warning bell. The shriek echoed, slicing through the suffocating night. "Someone, please help me!" Jenny's plea echoed, mixing into the whispers a soul calling for recognition, for salvation. But instead of movement, only stillness met her words. The murmurs persisted, louder now, drowning her thoughts. "Join us," the shadows crept, inching ever closer, threatening to swallow her whole. Then, suddenly, something shifted. She turned and saw a flicker of movement at the edge of the lot, something trying to break through the darkness. It seemed like another figure. Was it a friend? Or was it simply another trap waiting to ensnare her? Jenny's heart raced as she looked between the advancing circle of her neighbors and the flickering figure at the edge of the parking lot. Which way would she go? What awaited her in the shadows? With time running out, she knew she had to decide. Would she uncover the truth behind the whispering? Or was she bound to follow the call into the abyss? The flickering figure at the edge of the parking lot moved closer, a silhouette against the oppressive night. Was it a savior or another shadow whispering her name? Desperation clouded her vision, tightening her chest. "Jenny!" The voice broke through the chaos like a beacon in the dark. It was familiar, yet layered with urgency. She strained to discern the face beneath the hood. A friend? A rescuer? "Get in!" the figure shouted, waving frantically as the circle of her neighbors closed in. Jenny's pulse raced, torn between hope and instinctive dread. But the sound of her neighbors' voices swelled, manic excitement fueling their twisted smiles. "Join us. It's better this way," they chorused, their cadence rising with her anxiety. She felt the press of their collective gaze, each darkened pair of eyes filled with a love that repulsed her. "Help!" she breathed, the word barely escaping her lips. The unfamiliar figure edged closer, a black shadow lifting into the half-light. "Don't listen to them. Run!" Jenny's heart hammered painfully. That warning became her compass in the storm of fear. She gripped the steering wheel so tightly her fingers began to cramp. The headlights illuminated her desperate friend's face mark, with fear etched in every line, urging her onward. "Please, Jenny!" Mark screamed, eyes flickering to the advancing mob. "You have to trust me." In that moment, clarity washed over her like cold water. She had to get to him. She had to escape this. She slammed the gearshift into drive, the engine fighting back with a throaty growl. She swerved, abandoning the hellscape of her neighbors for the desperate grasp of survival. "Damn it! Move!" she screamed at the car, watching it jerk forward reluctantly. The headlights cut through the fog, illuminating the figures backing away, fists raised to shield themselves from the blinding light. For a fleeting second, she felt freedom. But it was fleeting, a dangerous illusion. The road ahead twisted like a mouth ready to swallow her whole, the familiar streets turning into unknown alleys. With every jerk of the steering wheel, she could see the shapes morphing in the rearview mirror, a dark tide pursuing her relentlessly. "Jenny!" Mark's voice penetrated the walls of her fear, snapping her focus back. "Keep going! Don't look back!" But she stole a glance and her breath hitched. They weren't just moving, they were merging, writhing together like a mass of dark syrup, drawing strength from each other. Their eyes glinted with madness under the moonlight. "Jenny, now!" Mark yelled, pulling her attention forward again. The car sputtered, a final protest as they neared a dead end. The pavement stretched ahead, consuming them with uncertainty. What awaited her at the end? Would she find a way out or meet the shadows that called her name? "Please, please," she whimpered, tears clawing at her throat. She could feel the vehicle's reluctance. With a final stomp, she pressed down harder on the gas, praying it wouldn't fail her now. The car shot forward, the tires screaming against the asphalt. As they hurtled toward the unexpected corner, a flash of light flooded her view, illuminating a figure at the intersection. Would they help? Or was it another shadow beckoning her closer? A deafening silence stretched before her as the headlights flickered ominously, revealing more answering screams from the dark throng behind. Jenny was running out of options. The near future promised danger, but now it loomed with uncertainty. What lay ahead in that blinding light? She raced toward it, desperate for a sliver of hope, unaware of the truth it might unveil. Would it be salvation or a deeper descent into hell? The blinding light engulfed her as she barreled around the corner, breath caught in her throat. For a moment, the confusion gave way to possibilities. Was there an exit out of this nightmare? The figure at the intersection resolved into a woman in a bright yellow vest, waving her arms as if signaling a plane for landing. "Stop! You need to stop!" the woman yelled, her voice slicing through the chaos like a knife. But Jenny's instincts clamped down around her, screaming to keep moving. "Don't go near her!" Mark shouted, panic igniting his eyes. "She's not here to help." The tires screeched as Jenny wrestled with the brake pedal, finally managing to halt the car inches from the woman. The headlights illuminated her features, but the cheerful demeanor seemed out of place in the unfolding horror. "You can't let them catch you," she urged, glancing nervously over her shoulder at the darkness behind them. Who?" Jenny asked in a trembling voice, adrenaline flooding her veins. The woman turned back, eyes wide with fear. "The townsfolk. They're not who they appear to be." Jenny felt a chill race down her spine at the utterance of that word townsfolk. It conjured images of insurrection, of something both bizarre and grotesque, entities wrapped in a collective madness. She blinked, struggling to comprehend. "Get out! You two need to come with me." The woman gestured urgently towards an alley to the right, just next to a grimy building. "Hurry! They will be here any second." Jenny glanced at Mark, his face twisted with indecision. "What if she's lying?" he asked, desperation blending with distrust. "I don't know," Jenny shot back, her panic rising. "What choice do we have?" Before they could argue further, the shadows behind began to writhe and convulse, forming shapes that lurched forward with a quickening force. Those eyes, they were brighter now, almost luminous in the thick night. The eerie chorus of familiar voices began to filter in, chanting her name. "Jenny! Jenny! Join us!" Terrified, Jenny made her choice. "Let us go!" she yelled, throwing open the car door. They bolted towards the alley, heart pounding in sync with their hurried steps. The woman grabbed her wrist, yanking her toward the narrow path. "Move! We don't have time." They stumbled past piles of debris and flickering streetlights. Shadows clung to the walls, watching, feeling. She could still hear the echo of her neighbors, those maddened faces distorted in her mind a collage of terror. "Please, please, just a little faster," Jenny begged, tears pooling in her eyes. She dared not look back, though every fiber in her urged her to take just one glance. The darkness closed in like a tightening embrace, a cold grip on her sanity. At the end of the alley, they reached a heavy door bound by iron and rust, marked with strange symbols. The woman pounded on it frantically. "Let us in! We need to hide!" Footsteps sounded behind them, a cacophony of wild breaths and manic whispers, growing closer. "Jenny, it's them!" Mark's voice trembled as he pointed. Out of the shadows, the mob lurched forward, their faces now contorted masks of euphoria and rage. The door swung open just as the first figure lunged toward them, a twisted grin splitting across its face. The woman yanked them inside, slamming the door shut as a scream punctuated the night. Jenny leaned against the door, chest rising and falling violently. They stood in a dimly lit room, surrounded by cluttered shelves. "What is this place?" she whispered, wide-eyed. "It's a safe house, but it may not be safe for long," the woman said, breathless. "You need to know what they really want." They exchanged a terrified glance, shadows dancing around them, coaxing secrets from the dark, wide-eyed and silent. What did they want? Did she even want to know? As the sinister chanting traveled through the door, Jenny's stomach twisted with dread, her very being questioning what lay beyond. But what she didn't know was that the darkness had already made its choice. The air inside the safe house felt thick, almost suffocating. Dust motes hung in the dim light, swirling as they breathed in the silence that replaced the chaos outside. Jenny's heart thundered in her chest, the rhythm a haunting accompaniment to the ominous whispers creeping through the door. "Listen," the woman said sharply, cutting through Jenny's panic. "We don't have much time. They'll know you're here soon." "Who are you?" Mark snapped, his eyes darting around as if the shadows were alive, waiting for the slightest movement. "How did you even know we were being chased?" "I'm Emily." Her voice softened slightly, but there was no warmth in her eyes, only a hard edge of fear. "I used to live here." "Not anymore. They've changed. They look like us, but they're not. They want to take you back. You both need to understand that." "What do you mean, take us back?" Jenny dared to ask, her curiosity battling with the sense of danger swelling in the air. "They know your fears, your secrets." Emily gazed at her intensely, as if trying to pierce through the fear. "They've been watching." The chanting outside grew louder, an eerie hymn resonating through the walls. "Jenny! Jenny! Join us!" The echo was laden with a sinister longing that sent a shiver down her spine. "What do they want?" Mark's voice quivered as he stepped closer to Jenny, a protective instinct overshadowing every rational thought. "They can't take us back, can they?" Emily shook her head, urgency snapping her words. "They want to pull you into their madness. To break your will and make you one of them." The door rattled as eager hands pounded against it. Shadows clawed at the frame, desperate to breach their sanctuary. Was it truly just the town's people outside? Or something worse? "Why didn't you warn us before?" Jenny blurted, desperation lacing her tone. "You just stood there." "It's not that simple." Emily's expression turned grave, as though the weight of her truths crushed her. "I had no choice until now. If you're here, then it's too late. They've already marked you." Mark took a step back, the color draining from his face. "Marked? By who?" "By the townsfolk, the ones that used to be your neighbors," Emily replied. "They've summoned you. Each night, they call your name. Each night, they grow stronger." The pounding on the door intensified, slamming like a heartbeat in the dark. "Let us in! Jenny! Mark!" The voices twisted in tones of pleading and rage, a cacophony of spirits melded into one. "What do we do?" Jenny's voice trembled, panic tightening her throat. She felt like a deer caught in headlights, the fear stalling her instincts. "We wait. We have to keep quiet." Emily glanced at the shelves clustered with dust-covered objects that felt ancient, desperate. But it wouldn't hold them back for long. Suddenly, a crashing sound echoed through the house, a shuddering thud against the wall that made them all flinch. The shadows writhed more violently now, coalescing into shapes that flickered in the faint light. "What is that?" Mark whispered, terror rising in his throat, eyes fixed at the dark corners. "Whatever you do," Emily hissed, stepping closer, "don't let them see you. They thrive on fear. If they see you, if they know you're here, it's over." Jenny's breathing quickened as the chanting morphed into a savage wail, reaching higher and higher in chilling intensity. The room closed in around her, corners melting into the darkness, an abyss of despair looming. Just outside the door, the voices implored her once again, rising in a chilling harmony that echoed the feelings in her chest. "Join us. Jenny! You belong with us." A moment of fleeting hope flickered in her mind. Was there truly a way out, or was it all hopelessly intertwined in the web of madness? The door buckled, and with a sharp crack, splintered under a force she couldn't comprehend. Emily's eyes widened in horror. "Get ready, whatever happens, don't look into their eyes." But as the door burst open and the figures surged forward, a realization struck Jenny hard. The darkness was calling her home, and no one could escape the lure of belonging. What terrible truth would unfold when the shadows finally enveloped them? The door exploded inward, splintering into jagged shards that scattered across the room like fallen teeth. The figures flooded into the safe house, dark silhouettes against the soft glow of fading light. Jenny's legs turned to lead, her senses overwhelmed by the stench of rotten vegetation and the overwhelming presence of dread that swept through the air. "Don't look!" Emily hissed, but Jenny's eyes were already drawn to the chaos. The townsfolk, or what used to be the townsfolk, now twisted versions of their former selves. Their faces were haunted, eyes gaunt and hollow, a reflection of profound despair layered with malice. Muffled whispers accompanied them, chilling echoes of familiar voices asking her to come forward, to rejoin them in whatever grotesque existence they inhabited now. "Join us," Jenny, a voice crooned, sweet and sickly. It beckoned, spinning through her mind like a warm embrace turned cold. Mark surged forward, pushing Jenny behind him. "Get back! You're not getting to her!" His shout broke the spell for a fleeting moment, but it only angered the figures. They swarmed around Mark, shadows writhing in an unnatural way. "They need you!" one shrieked, voice cracking with manic glee. "It's been too long. You belong with us." Emily grabbed Jenny's arm, hauling her back as the rest of the room disintegrated into madness. "We have to run!" But where to? The only escape had crumbled, and this house had become a prison. The air thickened with terror, each breath tasting of iron and desperation. Every ounce of Jenny's instincts screamed for her to flee, but the shadows seemed to flicker with unearthly energy, surrounding her, closing in. "Stay close!" Mark yelled again, voice laced with determination, driving them toward what seemed like a dim exit at the rear of the room. The silhouettes pursued them, the chanting growing louder, urging them to return to the safety of necrotic arms. Jenny stumbled, gasping as she skirted past a tattered table. An old photograph lay discarded, face down in the dust. She couldn't help but glance at it, drawn as if by an invisible tether. She didn't recognize the faces, but a hollow pang of emotion struck her. Were they truly lost souls, or traps waiting to ensnare her? "Jenny! Focus!" Emily snapped, yanking her back from the brink of distraction. As they reached the back door, the figures surged forward, their hands making ghostly grabs to pull them back. Mark was panting heavily, now fully aware of the shadows feeding off their fear. The door rattled violently behind them, each thud like a reminder of their frail mortality. In those fraught seconds, Emily glanced at Jenny with fierce intensity. "You need to believe in your strength. Whatever they offer, don't take it. Remember who you are." With a swift motion, Mark threw the door open, revealing a darkened backyard that seemed to pulse with the same life the figures had. "Go!" he shouted, and they plunged into the night. But the ground beneath them felt alive, shifting as they ran. The stars flickered overhead, casting eerie shapes on the ground as though the cosmos itself echoed the horrors they fled. The shadows stretched, pulling with a weight that threatened to drag them back. "Don't look back!" Emily's voice rang in Jenny's ears as she sprinted, adrenaline surging through her veins. The air was electric with fear, her heart racing louder than the footsteps behind them. But just as they crossed the threshold of the yard, Jenny's foot found a root, and she tumbled forward. The darkness spun, the night sky looming as her face met the ground. A sinister laugh erupted behind her, and then she felt hands like ice wrap around her ankle, thinner than air, yet suffocatingly strong. Jason screamed, thrashing against the grip, adrenaline refracting agony through her body. The faces of her former neighbors materialized in front of her, contorted and desperate, their mouths moving but making no sound. Nothing felt real anymore, and all she could think was, the darkness was winning. Would she be dragged back into their waiting arms, or could she break free once and for all? Jenny's breath itched, the cold grip around her ankle tightening like a vice. She could feel the temperature dropping, an unnatural chill seeping into her bones. Panic surged through her, primal and fierce. The laughter echoed like nails on a chalkboard, scraping against her sanity. "Mark! Emily!" she screamed, her voice cracking as she tugged against the icy fingers, but it felt like pulling against a tidal wave. Mark glanced back, his face a mask of terror. "Hold on. We're coming!" He lunged for her, but the shadows were faster, darting like smoke. The specters reached out, grasping at his arms, pulling him back with eerie strength. "Join us," they chorused, a multitude of voices twisting together in a cacophony of despair, weaving a spell meant to ensnare. Emily, fierce and defiant, shoved through the horde of twisted figures, her determination a beacon in the suffocating dark. "Don't let them take you!" she shouted, her eyes ablaze with conviction as she fought her way toward Jenny. Jenny struggled harder, her heart pounding against her ribcage. Memories flashed her friends, the quiet town, sunlight breaking through the trees. All those moments were at stake, and yet something sweet tugged at the corners of her desire. The voices whispered promises of comfort and belonging, of warmth in a world turned cold. "Jenny!" Mark's frantic shout drew her back from the edge of the abyss. She locked onto his gaze, a lifeline amid the cascading chaos. "Get her!" Emily yelled desperately, tearing herself away from the grasp of dark fingers that clawed at her. With newfound strength, Mark dove for her, fingers grasping at any part of her he could reach. The shadows shrieked, their voices blending into a maddening harmony of pleas. "Come back! You are one of us!" Jenny felt the icy grip slip just slightly, a moment of hope flickering in the inky blackness. But it was brief. A tightening pull almost sent her spinning back into the void. Closing her eyes, she thought of home, of laughter, of everything she couldn't leave behind. "I want to go! I want to!" she screamed, her voice rising above the madness. And then, with a surge of adrenaline, she kicked her foot free. The shadows recoiled momentarily, the grip loosening just enough for her to pull her leg free. "Now!" Mark yelled, his hand outstretched as she scrambled toward him. Just as her fingers slid into his, a guttural howl erupted from the darkness. Everything in the yard felt unstable as the figures twisted and writhed, their forms blurring. The ground trembled beneath them, roots and soil shifting like a living nightmare. They were outside now, but the night felt alive, as if the trees were stretching toward them, the air thick with an oppressive haze. "Run!" Emily shouted, her voice carrying a strange power that felt like a lifeline. They bolted into the heavy night, every step shaking with the thrum of unseen danger. But the shadows were not far behind. They surged forward like a tide, relentless. With every ounce of strength she could muster, Jenny forced her legs to move faster, her heart thudding like a drum in her ears. "We can't look back. We just have to keep running." But then, turning the corner into the clearing, they halted, and in that moment of desperation Jenny felt a sharp pain slicing through her ankle. She looked down to see dark vines curling around her leg, erupting from the earth itself, wrapping like serpents, tightening their grip. "No!" Panic clawed at her throat, the grip at her ankle pulling her into the very soil that had become alive. Breathing hard and panting, she could still hear the whispers of the townsfolk, now laced with fury. The shadows closed in again, darkness pressing against every side as the air filled with their suffocating despair. "You can't escape us." And then a voice, deep and chilling, broke through the chaos. "But you can choose." They were at a crossroads, but which direction led to freedom and which led deeper into the nightmare? Jenny's heart sank. Was this the moment she was truly lost? Could they escape the darkness, or would they become one with it? Forever? The vines tightened around Jenny's ankle, pulling her toward the ground that seemed to breathe and swallow. Fear spread through her like wildfire, igniting every nerve ending. She met Mark's frantic eyes, the desperation mirrored between them. Could they even fight this? "Jenny!" he shouted, but she could see him hesitating, hand hovering as if he didn't know what to do. The shadows whispered promises of safety and surrender, their voices like a soft caress that made her heart yearn despite the dread clawing at her thoughts. "Mark, please!" The words slipped out, barely more than a breath. She could feel her resolve crumbling. A moment like this could shatter anyone, but even so, the rage bubbling within her pushed her to fight. "Get me out of here!" Emily, eyes lit with defiance, grabbed Mark's arm and yanked him back. "We can't hesitate. We have to pull her out." The shadows jerked violently, sending a wave of darkness spiraling toward them. Emily charged toward Jenny, determination etched across her face. But doubt curled in Jenny's mind. What if the shadows offered something she could never have? What if surrender meant an end to her pain? Images of her family flashed through her mind, her mother's warm hug, her father's gentle smile. Would it be so bad to forget? No! She screamed, shaking her head as if to rid herself of the dark lullabies. With an immense effort, she pulled her other leg free from the entanglement and clawed her way forward, now anchored solely by Mark's grip. Now! Mark's voice pierced through the haze, and Jenny surged forward, reckless in her desperation. Emily! Help her! But Emily faltered, her own feet caught momentarily by the grasping shadows. I can tee! No! Jenny's heart sank, a surge of wild panic tossing itself within her. Emily! Don't give in! The shadows shrieked, their voices weaving into a tumultuous storm, eager to drag them all into the dark. For every step Jenny took, it felt as if 100 hands reached out, trying to pull her back. She could see strands of darkness creeping toward Emily, wrapping around her waist. Help me! Emily's voice trembled, woven with fear, but desperation sparked within Jenny. No! Fueled by adrenaline, Jenny pushed herself harder, forcing Mark to hold her tighter as she turned, lunging toward Emily. We're not leaving you! Gripping Emily's hand, Jenny felt a surge of strength. The shadows writhed, furious at the defiance, pulling at them like a tornado. We have to go! Mark pulled Jenny away, cracking the grip of darkness around Emily's waist, but not without a cost. With one last howl, the shadows led Emily to stumble. In that moment, Jenny felt a ripple, a crack in reality, a sensation as if the very ground was alive beneath them. This isn't just a choice, she gasped, understanding crawling into her mind, it's a trap. The shadows grew even darker, the air heavy with suffocating despair. Join us. Become one with the night. They howled, voices harmonizing into an unholy choir that sent chills through her marrow. Run! Mark yelled, pulling Jenny close, but as they turned, Jenny's gaze fell on the spot where Emily had been. She's still here. Panic crashed over her as she turned back. But there was no fear in Emily's eyes. Rather, a strange calm. Go! She mouthed, voice stolen by the wind. A tear streamed down Jenny's face as she realized the truth dawning in Emily's expression. We can't leave her! Emily's scream drowned in the deafening chaos, every ounce of Jenny's being wanting to reach out, but the shadows were hungry, eager, twisting the very fabric of their friendship. No! Jenny screamed, tearing her gaze away as they plunged deeper into the night, but a part of her stayed behind, overcome with the haunting question, what would she do if it came down to the choice between saving herself or one of her friends? Moments later, they stumbled into a small clearing, heart racing, breath ragged. The trees loomed like giants, shadows stretching as if bracing for impact. The whispers of the past layered thickly, echoing with promises and threats. The memories flooded back, the haunted look in Emily's eyes. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision, circling like vultures. Are we safe? Mark's voice quivered, one foot planted in uncertainty. But Jenny could feel that something big was about to happen. The shadows were gathering, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they hadn't escaped yet. In the distance, a figure emerged from the dark, cloaked in midnight shadows. With piercing eyes that flickered like dying fire, it began to speak words that crawled under the skin and stoked the fires of dread. Are you here to join us, or will you let the darkness consume you? They stood frozen, unsure of the choice ahead. Would they succumb to the darkness, or fight until their last breath? What awaited them within the depths of despair? Jenny's stomach twisted as she faced the looming figure, its presence an immovable mountain of dread. She could feel the weight of the shadows pressing in, thick and suffocating. Mark stood beside her, paralyzed with fear, but determination flickered in his eyes. Stay close, he whispered, clutching her hand tightly, as if their connection could protect them from the sinister figure before them. The figure stepped forward, the contours shifting like smoke. Join us, it said, its voice a smooth melody mixed with an unsettling undertone. You are meant to be here. No! Jenny's voice rang out, stronger than she felt. We want to join you. A ripple of surprise danced through the shadows, then a wave of anger surged back like a tide. You can't resist, it said, frustration lacing its words. You already belong to us. Not if we stand together. Mark shouted, his voice cutting through the encroaching whispers. The darkness hissed, recoiling momentarily, as if unsure how to deal with their defiance. But the threat remained, flickering on the edge of their vision, taunting them with chilling songs that promised relief from their pain. Do you not see? It continued, its voice weaving through the air like a sinister caress. You will only find suffering alone. Join us, and we will lift the weight from your hearts. What weight? Jenny challenged, her fear morphing into rage. You think I will surrender my soul for an empty promise? To feel nothing? The figure paused, studying her, and for a moment, doubt flickered in its eyes. But of course, it couldn't allow such defiance to blossom. Your memories are poison, it hissed, the anger building. The pain is yours to keep. The shadows surged forward, grasping at Jenny's ankles like hands of desperation. Don't look back. Focus on me, Mark commanded, pulling her forward as they retreated a step. Together they moved like a single entity, breathing in unison against the crumbling sanity around them. Remember who you are, he urged, urgency pouring from his words. Suddenly, Jenny caught glimpses of their memories, Timmy's laughter, her grandmother's stories, afternoons basking in sunlight. Those memories felt like a fire it burned, but it also illuminated the way. I want to lose that, she yelled defiantly, her resolve hardening. The shadows recoiled again, a scream of frustration escaping the figure as they surged closer, but Jenny and Mark took a collective step forward. The shadows twisted, trying to break their bond, but the warmth of their friendship pushed the darkness back. Stay together. Stay strong, Mark commanded through gritted teeth, sweat rolling down his brow. The shadows coalesced, taking the shape of twisted faces the townsfolk she once knew. You don't know what you're fighting for, they screamed, their heads tilted, captivating and terrifying all at once. Give in, Jenny! Suddenly, Jenny felt it an anchoring warmth. Emily's last moments revisited her. She had faced the darkness head-on, and fought to save them. She wouldn't let that sacrifice be in vain. We're not alone, Jenny shouted. We're together. And together, we can fight. A force ignited within her, a surge of courage and clarity that raced through her veins. The shadows shrank back, trembling as if the very weight of her spirit startled them. Your power breaks us, the figure hissed, its tone marred by confusion. Jenny stepped forward defiantly. No longer will I be a prisoner to your whispers. We refuse to surrender to you. As those words left her lips, the darkness wavered, retreating slightly, swirling like an angry fog. With newfound strength, she reached for Mark, and they held onto each other's hands, solidarity in the face of fear. The shadows hissed, darting away, so close yet so far from ensnaring them. You think you can defy who you are? We know who we are, Mark yelled. We will not be what you want. We will live the life we choose. With a sudden rush, the shadows surged forward again, like an army pressing ahead, but this time, Jenny and Mark were ready. They pressed forward as one, breaking through the barrier of darkness. Light erupted around their fingers, burning white-hot against crushed souls. In that moment, Jenny realized the truth. They were not merely retreating. They were pushing back. They were declaring their existence, their humanity, and the shadows shrieked in agony as light splintered through the darkness, dispersing the cacophony of despair. Time twisted and stretched. For what felt like an eternity, Jenny and Mark held tight, faces set in determination as they faced the overwhelming tide of shadows. The ground quaked, and the echoes of their neighbors grew into a chaotic symphony threatening to consume them all. But then silence. The stillness wasn't just absence. It was peace. The shadows evaporated, dissipating like smoke in the light, and Jenny felt warmth flood her senses. With a shaky breath, she turned to Mark, whose eyes were wide with something close to awe. They had won. they had resisted. "We did it," he whispered, and the weight of the world felt inexplicably lighter. But as she scanned the clearing, a thought nagged at her, a heavy ache for Emily, who had given everything to fight the shadows. "Where is she?" she asked, a lump forming in her throat. As if in response, a soft light formed in the distance, something comforting and warm. They stepped toward it, driven by hope and longing. Among the glow, a figure emerged, a silhouette recognizable and familiar. "Emily," Jenny breathed, and in that heartbeat, she felt the encasing warmth of love and friendship wrap around her like a cocoon. "All of you helped free me," Emily said with a soft smile, teardrops of relief shimmering in the light. "You have the strength to choose your path." Jenny lunged forward, enveloping her in a hug, warmth radiating between them. "You came back." Emily gazed at them both, eyes shimmering with satisfaction. "You faced the darkness, and together you prevailed. Never forget your strength." As they stood together, facing the horizon illuminated by endless dawn, Jenny knew they were free. The shadows had lost tonight. But Jenny understood it was more than a victory, it was a reminder. The darkness might always whisper, but they would always choose to stand in the light. "Let us go home," she said, the word wrapping around her like a blanket, comforting and true. And as they turned to walk into the light, she couldn't help but feel hopeful. This wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. Thank you for following Jenny's journey through darkness and hope. If you want to hear more exclusive stories like this, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next adventure. Smash that like button now to help us reach more viewers, and please flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who you think need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything, and only true fans understand the importance of backing our channel.